Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I am, of course, your host, Armando Venditti, and in this episode, I'm going to be doing another album ranking segment. And the artist I'm going to be talking about is George Michael. Now, George Michael was born Georgios Kyriacos Panayiotou on 25th of June, 1963, and passed away December 25th, 2016, at the age of 53. Way too young. Um, Now, George Michael, whether you like him or not, whether you think that he was just a pretty, front man for Wham and had no uh, musical ability except for his singing ability, you're wrong. George Michael could play guitar, keyboards, bass, and could write a melody and a hook like nobody's business. So I'm going to take the opportunity to rank my albums from the catalog. There are only five. For someone who was around for as long as he was, really only had five studio albums, that's a shame. And it is a shame that at the end of his life, he basically was just recording singles here and there and releasing them very, let's say, haphazardly. But five albums are all we have. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to attempt to rank my least to my best. I guess the best. Um, as all of you know, if you've been living in a cave, that's the only way that you wouldn't know is that George Michael started out in Wham with Andrew Ridgeley. In their teens, they released two albums and a compilation album. Those albums are Fantastic, Make It Big, and Music from the Edge of Heaven. Now, they decided to put the band to bed in 1986. They had a major goodbye tour, and they parted ways. He did a duet single with Aretha Franklin called I Knew You Were Waiting for Me in 1986 from her Aretha album, and produced by Narada Michael Walden. And of those sessions, Narada Michael Walden said that George Michael walked into the studio, listened to the track, did his vocal take in two takes. He did it once, he didn't like what he heard, he went back, did it again, nailed it, and walked out. That was it. He could do a vocal take like no one's business. Okay? Like, it's got to be said. So he released his debut solo album, Faith, in 1987. Massive hit. The rest is history. So what I'm going to do is attempt to rank my George Michael albums least favorite to favorite. So starting off, number 5 is Songs from the Last Century. Released in 1999 through Virgin. He was not signed to Sony anymore in the US, so I do believe it was released through Virgin in the US. It was produced by Phil Ramone. It is a covers album, and it's basically a jazz album. He does cover versions of Roxanne, Miss Sarajevo, Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? My Baby Just Cares for Me. Is a definite departure from the previous output that he had out. I don't, or I never had, sorry, a physical copy of this album. I don't even listen to it on YouTube. Even when it came out, it was just so different from what he had released prior that I never even bothered to even pay much attention to it. Not that his vocals on this album are bad in any way. It was not an album that really clicked with me. So that's number 5. Number 4, people are going to get a little bit up in arms about, and that's Faith. Now released in 1987, massive hit, out the door, hit right from the get-go. The title track, Father Figure, I Want Your Sex, Monkey, Kissing a Fool, One More Try. These songs were basically staples on radio in the 80s, and you could not turn on a television music channel, and they were quite prevalent back in the day, without seeing a George Michael video played practically every hour on the hour. And he did like a tour for this album that lasted like 18 months. Just unreal. But for me, this album suffers from being overplayed. There's nothing wrong with the production. I mean, it does sound like he went into the studio with a bunch of synthesizers and drum machines and just put it together, with the exception of Kissing a Fool, which is more of a jazz swing type of track, acoustic, live instruments being played. I just think that this album does suffer from oversaturation on the market. Amazing album, but it's not one that I go back to these days. So that's number 4. Number 3 is Older. Released in 1996. At this point, he is no longer with Sony. He fought to get out of his contract, failed to get out of his contract. He lost the case, but he did garner a lot of attention and acclaim from other artists at the time, like Prince, who did feel that they were chained to their record deals and could not get out of them. He also vowed to never record for Sony ever again. And, in some cases, he might be right. This album, released through DreamWorks, Universal, definite mature album. The lead-off track, Jesus to a Child, is a beautiful ballad, emotional, very emotive piece of music. Other tracks of note on the album are the title track, Older, Fast Love. God, Fast Love is a massive club jam with a new jack swing arrangement to it. And that track features samples of Forget Me Nots from Patrice Rushen. Beautiful track. If you are fortunate, you can download any way you can, or if you, like me, want to find CD singles, you can find the European single released to Virgin that has the 9-minute plus club remix. Beautiful, beautiful. I can't say enough about it. Other tracks on this album are The Strangest Thing, Spinning the Wheel. There's one track on there called, the last track is called Free, and it's basically an instrumental track. And the only line on it, the only lyric, is at the very end of the track where he says, "Feels good to be free." And of course, he's talking about being released off of Sony Music. So yeah, that's number 3. Number 2 is Patience. Nala and Nina are sleeping beside me here. Patience was released in 2004. At this point, he's back recording for Sony. And this album is different. It is a mature sound, but there are more up-tempo dance tracks on here. There's Amazing. There's Flawless, Go to the City. There's Precious Box, which is one of my favorite tracks. It's Precious Box talks about feeling lonely and isolated, alienated, abandoned, even if you're living in a big city with, like, everyone around you, and the hustle and bustle of whatever's happening around you, you still feel lonely and you still feel isolated. Other tracks on there, depending on the version that you get, he released a track called Freak, Freeek, which is on the European version of the album, which I have. And there's also the track Shoot the Dog, which features a sample from Human League's Love Action, I Believe in Love. And that track in itself, if you can see the video for it, it's hilarious. It talks about the political climate that was going on at the time between the US and the UK and his stance on it. So yeah, that's number 2. If you can get that album, please do. Please do. It's amazing. No pun intended. Number 1 for me is Listen Without Prejudice, Volume 1. Released in 1990. His last album for Sony for quite a while, until 2004. He did not want to do any promotion, no interviews for the album. He didn't even want to appear in the videos, plural, for the album. The singles Praying for Time, Freedom 90, Waiting for That Day. The other tracks, notable tracks, are Mother's Pride, Cowboys and Angels, Heal the Pain, Waiting, Reprise, Soul Free. Just an amazing piece of work. It's a very introspective album. Another notable track is Something to Save. It could be, he does use programmed drums. He does, on Waiting for That Day, the backing track is a slowed down James Brown track, I believe, called Funky Drummer, as the backing track for that song. It's an amazing album. 10 tracks on the album, as I believe I said. A very honest, very straightforward album in saying that fame for him wasn't what he thought it was going to be. There's that saying of be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. This is what he was talking about on this album. His heart is out on this album. It's laid on the table, and he's asking you to look at it and look at his soul, look at how he's feeling, and you can either sympathize with him and understand, or not. But yeah, that's my number 1. So hopefully after watching this, you like what you've seen. And even if you don't, please again leave the comments down below and let me know what you think. And yeah, let's get a discussion going about this. So I will leave you for now. Hopefully you guys are having a great afternoon. It is somewhat cloudy now. It's been coming and going, as you might have seen through the video. So hopefully you guys are having a good day. And I will chat with you very soon. Please look after yourselves and each other. And I will see you very soon. Bye for now.